Have you ever thought about moving to Georgia? A lot of people have. Over the last 20 years, they've gained so much population, they went from 12th most populated state to the 8th in 20 years. That's some progress. Today we're looking at 10 things you should know about before you move to Georgia. Now, we're not talking about the same stuff you're going to find on those lame AI fake channels. We're talking about the stuff nobody ever talks about. We're not talking about the heat, we're not talking about the bugs, and we're not talking about Atlanta traffic. Let's take a look. Number 10, Georgia's data center boom. Now, depending on where you are on this one, it's good or bad. I mean, if you're a politician or a guy that builds data centers, this is a good thing. If you're a local resident who's about to get pushed out of their home or your electricity bill's about to go up, it's a bad thing. Now, these aren't just Atlanta industrial park stories anymore. Communities across the state have been struggling with this issue. I mean, there's proposals that involve enormous facilities, electricity demand, water use, and land use. That nice rural road you bought a house on 10 years ago may have a giant data center across the road. A lot of people aren't okay with this, and there's not a lot they can do. I mean, there's the legal path, but that usually costs a lot of money. And the companies putting these things up have very deep pockets. People across the state and country really are going to city council meetings and just pitching an absolute fit about them. And for good reason. What they moved into a community for, or the community they've been living in forever, is changing. Data centers used to be in just industrial parks. You know, it was a building that you might mistake for a warehouse. Well, now they're building some that are just massive. I mean, bigger than a college campus type size. Now, a lot of Georgia jurisdictions have responded with moratoriums and new rules. That's not going to change the fact that the state has 276 data centers listed in 18 counties. That's the 5th most in the nation. And it's not like they're a massive state. They're middle of the road. They're actually ranked 25th in total area, and they got the 5th most data centers. One of the biggest problems with this that's getting a lot of the press is the eminent domain. I'm sure most of you are aware of this, what it is at least. It's when the local government or the federal government decides they need your land for something to better society or whatever. And they give you fair market value for your home, and you gotta move, whether you want to or not. There's a lot of legalese with this one, but most of the time it ends up you're moving. And the funny thing is, you don't get to hold out for a whole bunch of money. They give you the fair market value. They might go up a little bit, but you can't look at it like this is your big payday, you know? You're sitting on a $300,000 home and they come along, you're, oh, I'm gonna milk them. They pay me $1 million, I'll leave. You don't get that option. If your home's worth $300,000, you'll be lucky if you get $350,000. Number 9, the Georgia red clay. Now, this is a serious issue in Georgia. I went to ranger school and basic training in Georgia, and I've been stuck in that red clay mud before, and sometimes it'll almost take your boot off. It's one thing to take a shoe off, tennis shoe, when you step in that stuff and you lift your foot up and your shoe stays behind. I've almost had a military boot come off my foot because of that clay. It's sticky, it's everywhere, and it gets in your tires of your car. People treat it as scenery until they're gardening, landscaping, digging drainage, installing something in the yard, or trying to keep it off your carpets. Once wet, that famous Georgia dirt begins behaving more like a building material. If you're from the South, especially Georgia, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Number 8, your peaceful country road could be tomorrow's subdivision entrance. North Georgia and the outer Atlanta counties are changing quickly. What used to be the pastures or the woods are now 2-lane roads, and they have hundreds of houses on them. Maybe a commercial development or a medical complex. If you're just buying on the outskirts of Atlanta or one of the other cities there, I would definitely go further out if you don't want to be involved in that kind of nonsense within the next 5 or 10 years. Georgia is growing at a very fast pace. They've got a lot of beautiful rural places to live, but they're not going to be rural much longer. Subdivisions are going up so fast in that state, it's insane. When you rank the states by the rate that they're building homes, they go by how many homes are under construction for every 1,000 homes already up. There's only 3 states that beat Georgia right now. Idaho at number 1, North Carolina at number 2, and South Carolina at number 3. Georgia's almost tied with Arizona and Utah for the 4th spot. They're just a hair above both of them. Now, there's a good thing and a bad thing about this. One, if they're building more homes, that means there's just more homes for more people, and that means prices may go down a little bit, and maybe they won't have to put another trailer park up in your neighborhood. They're actually building subdivisions. The downside is, like we kind of already talked about, that peaceful country road you had is now the entrance to the estates at Corn Ridge. I love how they always give those grandiose names for these places. I've talked about this before in other videos. So he's like Red Hawk Vineyard Estates or something really weird like that. And then everyone forgets the name 2 years down the line and they just call it Red Hawk or Cornhill. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. If you're moving to Georgia, especially the Atlanta metro area, and let's say you want to live on the outskirts, go a little further outskirts. Instead of, being 10 minutes away from the city limit, maybe go 20 minutes from the city limit. Unless you're looking to live in Atlanta, then do whatever you want. I'm just talking about the people that are going for country roads and rural properties. Number 7, county politics can matter more than state politics. Oddly enough, another YouTuber, his wife is running for state representative in Georgia right now in the Atlanta area. Lindsay DeFranco, her husband is Philip DeFranco. He's one of the old timers from YouTube, even though he's like 10 years younger than me. But when it comes to county politics, it's very much a big deal in southern states, especially in Georgia. Planning commissions, county commissioners, and zoning boards can directly influence whether the field behind your house becomes houses, warehouses, apartments, or something considerably larger. Georgia counties have meaningful home rule and land use authority, so newcomers who ignore the county government can receive some spectacular surprises. Pay attention to where you're moving in Georgia. Talk to the county commissioner's office. And if you're in the Atlanta area, vote for Lindsay DeFranco. I'm not doing politics on this channel. I'm just trying to help out a fellow YouTuber. I'm curious, how many of you have ever considered running for office, whether it's dog catcher to, senator? Anyone ever consider that of my followers or subscribers or viewers right now? Let me know in the comment section. Number 6, Georgia mountain retirement isn't a secret anymore. Dawson County and similar areas have seen retirement-oriented growth bring new medical facilities, commercial projects, and infrastructure demands. People moving in, they gotta build for them. Luckily, since it's so many retirees, one thing they can get away with is not as many schools are being built. But they do need better hospitals. They need to entice doctors to move into the area, and not everyone that is drowning in $250,000 in college debt wants to move to a rural mountain town to work for the community clinic. So they got to kind of entice them in there sometimes. But the people are going there, and those small mountain towns, like a lot of the rural towns in Georgia, are kind of blowing up. If you're imagining North Georgia as permanently frozen in some Andy Griffith dimension, that show's ending. I've been in the different mountain towns and driven through the mountains of Georgia before, and it is absolutely beautiful. You don't get as much humidity when you go up a little higher, which is nice because that is my biggest negative, in my opinion, for Georgia and pretty much all the South is the humidity during the summer. Oh my God, I can't stand it. I grew up in Southern California and I'd go back there for the military or just to visit my dad in Mississippi, and I was miserable until the weather turned and it got really cold. Then I was kind of happy. Would you live in a mountain town in Georgia? Number 5, Georgia's famous tree canopy is a lot of work. Now, all of Georgia is just covered with trees. I mean, it's one of the most forested states we have. As a matter of fact, Atlanta's nickname is the city in a forest. And trees are great. They help us breathe. They give us shade. Sometimes they produce fruit or nuts, but sometimes all their leaves fall off and you got to clean that crap up. If you're moving from a big city and decide rural or even suburban Georgia is a great place to live, you're going to have to deal with these trees and these leaves. And it's not just the leaves, you also have the roots. The roots bring their own set of problems. It's usually in the form of screwing up your backyard. You also got to worry about vines. This is the American South where there's vines everywhere. You got fallen trees, dead trees, and you also got to watch how close a big tree is to your house. Now, I bring this up because everyone understands how trees work, but a lot of people live in treeless subdivisions or in cities. They're not thinking about this. I live in Oregon. My life evolves around picking up leaves. We actually have a pine needle day. I don't know when it happens. It happens like a couple times a year where you gather all the pine needles and you put them in a nice pile in the street in front of your house, and this weird street sweeper slash wood chipper comes by and just shoots them out the back of the machine into a following truck. It's weird. I'm from Southern California. I never knew this was a thing. Well, if you move to Georgia, just about any place in Georgia, you're going to be dealing with some trees. Unless you move into an apartment complex, then that's somebody else's problem. But if you buy real estate in the Peach State, you're going to have to deal with some tree stuff eventually. Yeah, this type of thing never occurred to me growing up in Southern California. I mean, we had palm trees for the most part and ferns. Ice plant. Ice plant's a big one where I grew up too. You know, for some reason, ice plant really grows good in the sand. When I was a kid, it was everywhere. Then, I don't know, probably when I was in my 20s, the entire South Bay of Southern California decided that ice plant is freaking ugly and they started removing it and replacing it with, I don't know, begonias or something. Are you surprised by this one? Have you ever had to deal with trees, or are you one of the people moving from a city or a treeless area like, I don't know, in Phoenix or something where this never occurred to you? Let me know in the comment section. Number 4, coastal communities and intense development pressure. Coastal Georgia isn't simply Savannah plus beaches. Places like Sapelo Island have experienced bitter fights over zoning, larger homes, development, and the preservation of historic Gullah Geechee communities. If you're one of the people thinking about moving to one of these coastal areas in Georgia, keep in mind they're pushing serious development here, especially on the Sapelo Island. This place is pretty interesting. One part of it is the Blackbeard Island National Wildlife Refuge, and they only have a population of about 50 permanent residents. They all live in a place called Hog Hammock. It's a historic, tight-knit Gullah Geechee community that's filled with descendants from enslaved West Africans. So they got some history there, and developers are trying to basically turn it into the next resort. And it's not just Savannah or Sapelo Island. This is going on up and down the coast of Georgia. So if you're thinking about grabbing a coastal place in Georgia, make sure you know what's going on with the community. Check their city council meetings, see if they've got any proposals of new developments on the coast. Number 3, small town locals won't be thrilled to see you. Rapid newcomer growth has created real friction in parts of North Georgia. The complaints aren't necessarily political, like most people assume. Oh, they're coming here trying to change our ways. Georgia's kind of a purple state as it is. Sometimes residents simply don't want another 5,000 people discovering the road that used to take them 10 minutes to drive. This is becoming the vibe in most small towns in the United States these days, since everyone started working remotely and so many people are now just working on their computers or content creators. They can move anywhere in the country and do their work. So they're picking small towns because small towns aren't as crowded. A lot of times they're more affordable and they're better to raise your kids in. If you go back 20 years, most small towns in America were struggling. They were losing people. No one was moving there because they didn't have jobs that these college-educated people needed. They didn't have the opportunities that a big city provides. So small town America was, kind of suffering through a slow death. Well, that all changed somewhere around 2015. And it really picked up steam 5 years later when COVID hit. Now more people just need a laptop to do their job, and they're now driving down Main Street America. This, of course, means the small towns are changing. They're getting outsiders that have different views. They've got more people hitting the diner. New homes are going up in towns that haven't had a new home built in 50 years. They're bringing money that the locals really aren't used to seeing, and it's changing their community. So I understand why they're getting upset, but that's just how America is. It's what we do. And the difference is it only used to be cities that got that treatment. Now everyone's getting that treatment, especially now that more and more people are trying to get out of the big cities. I watched a CBS morning show one time a couple years back, and it was about a small Georgia town. They're talking about the people that were moving in there. And they went to the classic diner that everyone goes to. One of the old men said that his whole life he'd go to the diner and they'd occasionally see a different face. And that was just someone driving through town, stopping to get some breakfast, and never see him again. He said it's not like that anymore. You'll see a new face at the diner on Saturday morning, then they're there again the next week, and someone else is new, and then they're there the next week. Number 2, contractor scarcity. When an area suddenly starts building houses, studios, commercial centers, and infrastructure simultaneously, everyone wants an electrician, a plumber, a landscaper, a roofer, and a handyman. It's just too bad they got other gigs going on right now with all these homes being built, and their calendar is 2 months out. This is a problem a lot of people in Georgia are seeing right now. On top of that, you have all these ICE raids, and that's taking a lot of contractors out of circulation. And it's not just contractors. A lot of these rural communities can't get labor anymore. Not just the ICE raids, but a lot of these laborers are now working for the construction people that are building new subdivisions and commercial centers. So if you're just a dude owning a home and you need some plugs replaced or some new lights put in outside, you might have to wait. And not just a week or two, we're talking months. So that's something you should probably just pay attention to. What's building in your area? You might have a nice rural place you're moving to, but are they building a subdivision 20 miles away where everyone's going to be working at? Do your research. All right, before we get to number 1, would you move to Georgia, or is Georgia just too south for you? Some of these things turn you off? Let me know in the comment section. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, you're not escaping New York or California. A lot of people over the last 20 years have moved to places like Georgia to get away from big states that are overpopulated like California, New York, maybe even Florida. Well, the thing is, Georgia's up there with those states. A lot of people think that Georgia's just this laid-back southern state like Mississippi, Alabama, and South Carolina. It's not. Atlanta is a world-class city, and it is huge. Some people call it the capital of the South. Savannah's getting bigger all the time, like we just discussed. Columbus is getting better. Augusta is getting huge. And the illusion that Georgia's just this sleepy backwoods state still is not a thing. They're getting all the problems that New York has, Florida has, California has, and Texas. Prices are rising, people are flooding in, and that fantasy you had about living in a small Georgia town like you saw in Doc Hollywood, it's getting harder and harder to find. One thing that's going on, especially around the Atlanta area, that kind of reminds me of Los Angeles. Production companies filming TV shows or movies in and around Atlanta, and really a lot of small towns in Georgia. They've been trying to entice the film industry to come to Georgia for some time. Well, it's there. I grew up in Redondo Beach, California, like I've said many times before, and there's been so many movies filmed around my area that it becomes a pain in the butt. There's a show called The OC. They were filming some apartment scene like right around the corner from my house, and there was always production trucks in front of my house. They'd film for like 2 months every single year, and the traffic and the parking was just horrible. And then they started filming down at the Redondo Beach Pier. If they go to a little diner in the OC, it was the Redondo Beach Pier. It wasn't in Orange County. But that starts to put a strain on your life, and it kind of sucks. Well, they're seeing that in Georgia right now too. And it's not going to stop because there's a lot of investment going into production in Georgia. On top of that, that's bringing in new tech firms and new manufacturing. This is throughout the state, not just Atlanta. So like I said, if you've got that Doc Hollywood dream that you're going to move to some small town where the mayor begs you to stay, it's not really much of a thing anymore. You got to look a little harder. All right, what do you think? Would you move to Georgia? Did anything in this turn you off? Let me know in the comment section. If you like this video, I know you're going to love this one right here. It's about Minnesota. Everyone have a great day. Be nice to each other.